any conspiracy theory that has zero basis in science is just, I don't know, Occam's razor, right? You know, with the available evidence, if you've got multiple ways of explaining, the one that seems the most easy and the most likely to do should be the assumption. And I don't know, maybe when, you know, a very hot air or air is heated up very quickly and creates water vapor, which creates clouds behind. Could that be it? It seems a lot more likely than the government is controlling our thoughts and that the Earth is flat. I don't know.
Or maybe the concept of Occam's razor is a government product because like, hey, don't think too hard.
Who is this?
Just think of the simple answer. It's just
no.
Occam.
But then it becomes too big is the thing for me. It becomes too big, right? The whole chemtrails thing becomes too big. Too many people need to be involved and keeping that a secret.
So what you're saying it's more realistic to believe in the reptilians, like the Queen of England is a reptile.
Jordan,
no, I didn't say that.
it is more realistic to imagine that my microphone is being held up and moved around by nanobots. Hey, that's more likely than chemtrails.
One thing that we also reviewed this week was actually a single episode from the Portal podcast with Eric Weinstein. Shout out. I've recently come across him, and I gotta say, he is a compelling erudite.
He's a big fan of ours.
He talks about, it's funny because even in his video, he talks about responsible conspiracy theorizing. And one of the things that he talked about is the importance of precedents. So he says, and I mean, as a freelance conspiracy theorist, I have to say I somewhat disagree on the subject because he seems to say that if your conspiracy theory is based on something that hasn't happened yet, it can't be true or it can't be respected. And I'm like, well, before we found out about the other ones, like where was the conception of that idea until it was there, right? Anyways, again, I don't want anybody to think that I'm like really convinced of any and all conspiracy theories. I readily admit that it can be nothing more than like mental puzzles where as long as you can't find just a slam dunk heck no, and that isn't Occam's razor, then you're in trouble, right? So he just talked about how specifically when you're talking about like the media manipulation, okay, so we do know for a fact that there has been studies put into understanding how influential the media is. There has been MK Ultra, which was trying to leverage, psychoactive drugs to brainwash people, right? We don't know how far it got. We don't know if there was some breakthrough that we didn't know about, right? But there's a precedent for the pursuit of that type of capability. And so I think that's another reason why a lot of these conspiracy theories persist is it has been attempted. It has been arguably successful in some aspects. I mean, I actually have memories of being in like a third grade class where we learned about America, the Constitution. We learned about freedom of speech, and we're like, yeah. Our teachers would say that in other countries, like they repress the press and they don't have the right information. And in my mind, I was like, what? Even then, in like third grade, I'm like, what if my country does repress, the press, and this is a narrative that I'm being fed, and they're telling me that my country is special. And it's not. Oh no! What if that's true? But it was kind of like Spencer said. It was like sometimes it's just too big for you to get.
Yeah. I will say, Zach, on that front, as a lightweight conspiracy theory, there's just this viewpoint within the United States that the U.S. is always the good guy, and I will say that is a large pile of disgusting brown, semi-solid, semi-liquid particles that I have excreted from a human body.
So Brian, I mean, I think that's interesting though, because it is in a sense a conspiracy theory that is very engaging, and it's information that I'm sure you've looked into, and I'm sure that it is information that you have disseminated to those who are willing to hear. And I would ask, like, so what's the difference between you saying that and saying that there's a high probability that there's been this narrative that is not 100% true? And what does that mean for us in America? What does that mean about our impact on internal politics? Do we have a responsibility to correct or to create some sort of ownership recompense for missteps?
So, I can only speak on an individual level, and I have power and authority over no one, not even my own son listens to me. So I feel like my only ability is to share information that is credible, extremely credible, uh, to those just in natural conversation and based on interests. So I think that in general, we as humans look at problems and try to solve them immediately. When if we take a step back and realize that the galaxy has existed for 14.9 billion years, and the fact that every generation is more educated and knowledgeable and intelligent than the last generation, everything that our parents or grandparents believed in is no longer going to be believed in by us and our future generation. So I think it's just a matter of time. We're learning that in this example, the government hides things from people in order to get leverage over other countries and manipulate the American population. And so we don't trust them. We don't listen to them. We don't take their word. We don't listen to the major news outlets. I mean, I don't know when the last time those were credible sources, but it's certainly been decades. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a matter of time before the government has the ability to even manipulate human behavior anymore, just because we already don't believe in it. We don't believe what they're telling us. So at least I don't. I don't know who does.
Sure, and I think that leads to dramatic consequences. I mean, one of the interesting things from the Out of Shadows and other people's takes on Jeffrey Epstein specifically is that it's possible, or somewhat conceivable, that he was a intelligence operative, potentially not connected to the United States, and that raises up a new set of questions that says that, in my mind, I kind of see it as this, which is, so we don't trust our local government. We don't trust our federal government. Do we know if there is malintent with the federal government? If there isn't, do we know if there's malintent with other countries? And what is the objective of these other places? And I think that we could potentially have an opportunity where, as a country, as a group of individuals, people might need to do something about misinformation or disinformation, simply on the possible risk of there being an influential, powerful enough player in this game that could lower your quality of life, that could prevent you, Brian, from being able to study what you'd like to study, that could prevent me from being able to talk about conspiracy theories in a casual conversation, that could limit the choices that you have. And I would posit that the limitation of those choices could be detrimental to a general well-being of an individual and a society.
It's not going to happen. There's no way it can happen.